Hello and welcome to Bharat Shakti. I am Nitin Gokhale. The amendments or the improvement to the Defence Acquisition Procedure 2020 is in the works according to many reports and information that one gets. Why India wants to have improved acquisition, faster acquisition for its armed forces, given the geopolitical flux that it finds itself in. And of course, two major adversaries on its borders constantly sniping at India. DAP or the Defence Acquisition Procedure 2025 needs to be in tune with the times that we are living in, and that is a work in progress. But how can that become a document which enables and makes it a faster kind of a process for acquisition is something that everybody is trying to wrap their head around. And therefore, one of the discussions that we thought we'll have is with Rajiv Ray Chaudhary, my guest today. He is the former strategy director for BAE Systems India and now a freelancer writing and advising people, and many people consult him. So welcome to this program, Rajiv.
Thanks, Nitin. It's a pleasure to be here, seriously. And thank you for inviting me for this conversation.
One has seen your work while you were in, of course, that company. But after that, you've been writing regularly, and obviously your knowledge comes to the fore. So one of the things that you recently wrote about was how to get foreign original equipment manufacturers interested in a long-term relationship with Indian Armed Forces, and how not to just depend on the old model of licensed production in India. Under the JVs or under the foreign military sales kind of a model that the United States follows. So what are your ideas on that?
So Nitin, it's like this. There are a lot of people who believe that much critical defense technology still sits outside the country, and that sits with foreign defense OEMs. And therefore, the key question really is, what are the mechanisms that we have or we can have that based on which we can bring that technology into India? And I think the MOD clearly has been trying for so many years. If you look at just simply the current categories of procurement, you have 6 categories, 2 of which are purely for foreign defense OEMs. You've got the Buy Global, which is direct imports, and we've seen a lot of movement on that. The Rafale Marines, the Predator drones, etc., etc. Then you have the other category, which is Buy Global, Manufacture in India. This is the only category that gives foreign OEMs 100% control and ownership of manufacturing in India. But for the last 5 years, there has been not a single program that's been assigned to it. So the point really is that the MOD has a construct for bringing that technology in, or for driving that piece, but that's not really happening. Take the other bit around FDI in defense.
Sure.
FDI in defense has been moved in 2001 when it was first introduced. It was 26%. 2015, when just right after this government came in, it was moved to 49%, and now it's 74%.
Right.
And this happened in September of 2020. But what 74% gives is, for the first time ever, foreign defense OEMs can have major or majority shareholding and major control of the JVs. Right? Control and ownership of the JVs. Now, this is something that the government expected would drive...
To fly, really.
Drive FDI inflows into the country, huge amount of JV setting up, but that has not happened. So there has to be other mechanisms as to how we kind of get to that. And this is purely around bringing that technology in. There is a separate track which is doing great, which is of course on Atmanirbharta. But really the focus that I write on is basically...
So how do you propose to do that? Because Buy Global that you mentioned is just an improved version of what used to be the Soviet model of Sukhois and MiGs being assembled here, or then later sort of indigenized a bit because of spare parts and other stuff. Over the years, over decades, the Indian armed forces have done that on tanks, on the fighter jets from the Soviets. So how do you propose to improve on that?
So I guess you go back a little bit as to why the current policy construct has not worked, and then take it from there.
Sure.
So the sense I have, and I call it, I give it the term, the challenge of the 3 Is.
Okay.
It's because of 3 Is that we're not seeing that kind of progress. And what are those 3 Is? The first is investment in FDI.
Right.
Today it's 74%. But clearly that's not enough. For a foreign defense OEM to come into India, I suspect it has to be 100%. They want full control and ownership of manufacturing, of their IP that's sitting in India. And anything below 100% is not going to work. And we've seen that. The data points show that.
Sure. No, hardly anybody has come into that after that policy was tweaked to 74%.
Absolutely, right? And so those are the data points. The second I is indigenous content, local sourcing. Today, indigenous content is 50%. Foreign OEMs, even in a JV, which is less than 100%, I suspect are not excited about being able to deliver the IC requirement, because that would mean they would have to restructure their global supply chains. That takes time. You need to be, they need to be fast, and they're not going to be doing that. So that's the other I, which is a challenge. And the third is, of course, intellectual property. There's the priority program that we have in defense, by Indian IDDM, indigenously designed, developed, manufactured. That is as I say, the Atma of Atmanirbharta.
Absolutely.
But for that, the requirement is that if foreign defense OEMs are looking at participating, and the irony, of course, is that a lot of the programs under that on the Make One list, I suspect, require that foreign technology to come in to deliver on those programs. For the foreign defense OEM sitting outside, the requirement under IDDM is essentially that the IP needs to be sold to the Indian partner. Now, in many cases, either the foreign defense OEM is not willing to do that, but equally important, sometimes is not able to do that, because the IP for many of their platforms is not necessarily sitting with them, it's sitting with their host governments. So that's the 3 Is and the challenges of that.
Sure.
So how do you kind of
tackle this?
Tackle that? How do you mitigate the 3 Is? The argument that I have on this is that I think India needs to look at 100% FDI in defense.
Okay.
It needs to look at it under the automatic approval route, because the contra argument, of course, is that, well, actually there is already 100%. So why are foreign defense OEMs not going under that? Yes, we've had the Sweden Saab example, where they were the first foreign defense company to apply and through the government route get approval for 100%. That was the first approval after so many years from the time it came in.
Right, and it was for that the guns that they wanted to sell here.
Absolutely, the shoulder-fired guns. But the reality is, after 2 years of that approval, there's been no real movement on the ground. There's been no order for those guns.
Right.
And I don't think at this point, and of course I'm saying it without, from my own, perspective, I think the kind of the perspective of or the position that Saab is actually going to deliver on orders for the Indian government exclusively from that may be questionable, because my sense is that it's going to be first for exports. And that at some level does defeat the purpose, right, of that. So, and the other bit why foreign OEMs are not going to go for that government approval is it's case by case.
Right.
And it hinges on a concept called access to modern technology. There is no definition of what that
modern
means.
Technology, yeah.
There's no guidance on it. And having been in a foreign defense company for the last so many years, there is always that sense that, at the end of the day, the Indian government is the only customer, right, for a foreign defense company operating in India.
Yeah.
The concern is we apply and it gets rejected. I mean, those are things you don't really want to do. So you need clarity.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying 100% under the automatic approval route.
That's the first thing.
That's the first thing. Now, I don't think that it's also very difficult, because today, if you go back to the procurement categories, you've got buy global, manufacture in India, right? That essentially allows a foreign defense OEM to manufacture in India through its wholly owned subsidiary.
Yes.
So the argument really is that if wholly owned subsidiaries of foreign defense OEMs are already allowed to manufacture in India, then let them bid for contracts in India, right? And the minute you move from manufacturing to bidding, of course, you need 100% to do that.
Sure.
But then the foreign OEMs then have access to multiple procurement categories. You already have, as I said, buy global, which is a different model.
Right.
You got buy global, manufacture in India. You will have access to foreign OEMs will have access to buy and make Indian and buy and make, right? And there are many programs around that.
Which is that? Yeah.
The last thing on that is, and again going back to the 3 I's, is that if that was to happen, I mentioned earlier that IC is a challenge.
Of course.
But with 100% ownership, my sense, and I suspect foreign OEMs will very quickly bring in their suppliers from all over the world into India to deliver on the IC requirement, because they've got a stake in the game in a sense. So what you would have then is that at the level of tier 1, tier 2 defense companies, you would have those companies coming in, because foreign OEMs are the best positioned to bring their supply chain into India. Nobody else can do that.
Right, because Indian companies not necessarily, that kind of reach that they'll have, or that kind of influence that they'll have.
Absolutely.
For bringing them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they've had years of collaboration on.
Sure.
Those will at that tier 1, tier 2 level will come in, and it is at that point that you will be able to see, I suspect, joint ventures coming in. You will have the supply chain in India. You will have security of supply in India. So it's not just 100% FDI, it's the whole ecosystem that comes around it.
Created, yeah.
So that, to my mind, is something that, there is an argument for. There's already the concept of, foreign OEMs manufacturing in India with 100% ownership and control. So yes, it is a matter of, picking up and seeing whether that makes sense from an MOD perspective.
I get that. So the counter argument to that, what I've heard from people and what I know from the industry is, one, of course, then that you're actually killing your own MSMEs by bringing in tier 1, tier 2 suppliers. The argument that you just had, the reasoning that you just mentioned, that's one. Second is that I don't think people are looking at it from the angle of making in India, but making for the world, like the Prime Minister keeps saying. I don't think they're enamored too much by that kind of approach. What is your experience in this?
No, absolutely. If you just look at the numbers, the whole concept at the beginning, I think was really, and as Defense Minister has mentioned in the forward to the Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020, that by increasing FDI to 74%, this will bring in companies to manufacture in India for the world. That has not happened. Foreign defense OEMs...
Although exports have risen, but that's a different case.
So Nitin, exports have gone up, absolutely right. But, keep in mind that exports have also been or are also being driven by defense offsets. The trigger for defense exports, if you go back,
in time,
it's been defense offsets. And even today, wherever a foreign OEM has an offset requirement because of bringing in weapons to the first buy global route, they are focusing on delivering that. So the larger bit is around offset still.
Right.
Yes, there are companies who've grown beyond that. And for them, it's no longer offset, but business. But that bit is a different area.
Sure.
In terms of, because it's export into their own global supply chain and not export anywhere else for their or to their customers.
Correct.
In terms of the MSMEs, That's a very valid point. Yes, there would be some of those challenges. But again, if you look back in terms of how it could actually work through, it is with the MSMEs that we could be looking at JVs. Because the trigger is 60% IC, 50 to 60% IC.
Correct.
The tier 1, tier 2 will come in, but they will not be able to still deliver that on their own.
They'll need partners here.
They will need partners. And the advantage that MSMEs have in that kind of a construct is that we're not talking systems integrators and platform level. We're talking at systems, subsystems, sub-assemblies, components, where that's where the MSMEs are.
Right.
So, sure, I think there would be that initial challenge, but, in the long term, it may just work out better for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But also, for a long time, we've been hearing now for almost 15 years, if not more, that India is a buyer's market. And therefore, there's no choice for the foreign OEMs to come and sell it here, sell their wares, sell their platforms, equipment, all that. And yet we've not seen too much of a progress in terms of India being a preferred destination for manufacturing. Now, is it also, we spoke about the challenges of the 3 I's that you spoke about. Let me also ask you, somebody who's been in this sector for a long time, is there a challenge of absorption of technology, lack of technology hands, better technology hands in the Indian defense manufacturing sector? Or is it got to do with the attitude that we'll only do license production, design, build to print basically, of the Indian MSME in the defense sector industry? Have you come across that kind of what I'm just saying?
I think it's really a question of, how you incentivize. Right. And at the moment, there is not much of that, even under the current the policy.
Right.
So it's a question really of how how do we get them in? How do we you get them to be part of the larger ecosystem for foreign OEMs? And there could be other reasons. I mean, technology absorption, of course, those are very important.
Skills found wanting sometimes is what their complaint. The foreign OEMs always complain that they may not have enough skills to absorb technology.
Right. India will not have.
India will not have. Yeah.
But then, look at the examples of the C295, right? I mean, that was, of course, under a category that today does not exist.
Correct.
Which was buy and make. Yeah. But of course, it has been replaced by global manufacturer in India.
Yeah.
But that is a situation where, yes, Airbus with Tatas in India, for the first time ever, a final assembly line for military aircraft in India. So if that's not absorption of technology, that's not skill sets being delivered, available, then what is?
Yeah.
So
that's one example, very good example. Now AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft Program, which is in the offing, they've allowed private sector to be part of a consortium or bid on their own. It's a long way off, no doubt. But do you think that kind of a major program actually will incentivize everyone across the board?
Absolutely. It will. There is no doubt. But again, you have to go back to the procurement categories and the policy. If the policies remain as they are, at best, what the technology providers, let's say the foreign OEMs outside India, at best, they would simply be a tier 1 technology partner to the Indian prime.
Right.
Or they could come in a JV at 74%, which we know has not happened.
Sure.
So there is an opportunity there. But again, it's a question of how we maximize that. That's a huge program, right? And the defense minister has amazingly, kind of expanded it, broadened it to private companies.
Correct.
The question is it going to be just Indian defense companies? It is, of course, foreign also, but again, in partnership with, as a tier 1. Now, the question again is, does a tier 1 technology partner or this partnership as a tier 1, does it really bring us or buy us the technology or the transfer of technology we're looking for? Probably doesn't. To a large extent, not the critical technology.
Not the cutting edge technology that one looks at. So lots of challenges going forward. If I have to ask you a final thought to share with us, what would you recommend as three main tweaks or amendments or improvements in the upcoming DAP 2025? What would you like to see?
Well, one is, of course, the FDI. But now the FDI, of course, strictly speaking, is not within the remit of the MOD.
That's not, yeah.
But of course, I mean,
They
there's
can
enough,
always recommend.
there's enough influential,
Sure.
kind of power on that.
Right.
So I think that, to my mind, is topmost. The second is, I think, services. Again, it's not DAP, but it's closely connected to a program, because at the end of the day, there is the platform, but then the services.
The MRO is there, or
MROs, and then you got maintenance and upgrades and all of that stuff. I think there, of course, there is the kind of the construct allows foreign OEMs to bid for contracts, through the wholly owned subsidiaries, but that's not really happening that much. And if you're looking at a program in its entirety, you have to look at that piece also outside of DAP. So maybe something around that, as and when the defense revenue procurement manual, the DPM,
which is also under revision, I am told,
for the last 10 years or something,
Exactly.
when that comes in.
Yes.
But going back on the DAP, I would say possibly a chapter on, like we have a chapter in DAP on shipbuilding.
Sure.
You could have a chapter in DAP on aircraft
Aerospace.
because that's something that wasn't there, for so many years,
Right.
but is now coming in various different forms and shapes, whether it's a C295 model, whether it's, the LCA model, whether it's
Or the
ANCA model.
the Indian intermediate, that helicopter.
Absolutely.
Range
Right.
helicopter, all that, where Safran is doing a JV with the HAL, something
For
of that kind.
the helicopter engines,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that kind. And then further, maybe, another engine coming in for the AMCA. Which is another big category later, but that's a separate discussion.
But just on that,
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing. Again, it's a new procurement model.
Yes.
Right? There has never been a situation where under a G2G construct, you have 100% transfer of technology, you have IP.
A joint
in
IP
India.
is being proposed.
Joint IP or IP, from what I understand.
Sure. I mean, we don't know which one is the final decision. but
Correct.
There is another proposal of a joint IP or developing another engine.
Right. And then, no restrictions on exports. And
Right.
I guess to a large extent, only the French can do that, because
Exactly.
the ITAR bit
Yes.
doesn't apply.
Doesn't apply, exactly, yeah.
So that's another,
Another category.
another category.
And that's intangible at the moment. Unless it happens and, they put pen to paper.
Right,
We really
right.
don't know. But your wish list is absolutely correct, that we need these three things to be done, apart from many other improvements that are in the offing. Everybody is seized of it. The whole issue is, ship of this state of India, the nation state, is so big, it takes time to turn.
It takes time.
So, any other final thoughts if you have?
Well, I remember when I first came into defense, in a corporate background, at that time, in those years, 2011, access to the MOD for a foreign defense OEM, meetings, etc., were impossible, right? Today, and when I left after 14 years, that is so much easier. So foreign OEMs have access,
They get meetings.
They get meetings, they get, hearing time, etc. I think that is a phenomenal change, because unless that was to have happened, there would not be the kind of progress we see in the defense.
The kind of conversations that they're having now, frank and free, and discussions.
Absolutely, with
the users
and the
with
technology
and the
providers,
Yes.
in a sense, for
Exactly.
certain platforms and certain kind of areas.
Sure.
So to my mind, I think that is phenomenal. I've seen that. I've been fairly close to it, and it's amazing.
That's
So I think
good to know. I think just build on that kind of spirit of doing reforms which are far-reaching, and perhaps India will be a powerhouse that it aspires to be. Thanks, Rajiv, for fascinating insight. Clearly shows you were deeply you are still deeply involved in the defense sector. So that was Rajiv Ray Chaudhary, and we were, of course, speaking about a little technical subject on defense acquisition procedures and the various categories and how it can improve. But do keep watching Bharat Shakti. We will bring to you such different and interesting conversations. For the time being, it's goodbye.